Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from TeleSUR Studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. In Venezuela, the second day of the historic Bolivarian Congress processes within the framework of the plan of the 7 Transformations 2024-2030. Different delegations attended this Friday to the session to debate issues on education for indigenous peoples and also at the national level of boys, girls and young people. The meeting plans the construction of a new state and a new geopolitics of world power, and it is expected that the session conclude this Saturday in plenary with the participation of President Nicolás Maduro. The Congress contemplates to define and approve collectively the proposals for the future of Venezuela, and after more than 100,000 assemblies throughout the country. As the second day of the Grand Congress of the historical Bolivarian bloc is underway in Caracas, Venezuela, we go to the site of the event with our correspondent Belén de los Santos, who has more updates on today's work agenda.
The second day of the Grand Congress of the Bolivarian Historical Bloc is coming to an end. This participative initiative that was proposed by the administration of President Nicolás Maduro with the objective of introducing a popular discussion on the nation's strategic goals for the upcoming mandate for the upcoming 30 years. One of the phrases that many of the delegates that were present here in the Congress highlighted was the unprecedented nature of this event. As they say, this was the first time that a state president has summoned every social and political organization to debate and to help draw up a series of conclusions for the National Development Plan. So the debate has been going on throughout the day, as we have been bringing to you, and every assembly gathering delegates from across the territory and across the Venezuelan generations, that is the 5 generations that were surrounding strategic topics which have been denominated the 70s, that is for the 7 transformations. This is an ongoing process of participation, and one of the aspects to highlight regarding this Congress, besides what we've already said, is that precisely the importance of popular participation in the current stage of the Bolivarian process. I would like to keep in mind for a second that, for example, as the process that ends with the Grand Congress is going on, Venezuela has also been hosting the International Congress Against Fascism, calling for a deeper understanding of the challenges that face not only Venezuela but the region and that threaten its revolutionary process. In this context, in the face of this threat, this participatory process that is this Congress, that calls on every last member of the Bolivarian people to think, to debate, to discuss and defend its historical conquest, is really a key element for the active defense of the revolutionary process. So what is happening here today needs to be thought in that way, as a call to the people to deepen its compromise, to deepen its revolutionary actions in a world context that moves drastically to the far right. This second day of the Congress comes to an end with the intervention of the Vice President, Rodriguez, also oil, and the Minister of the Interior, Diosdado Cabello. And all the delegates will be back tomorrow, Saturday, to continue the assemblies and to begin drawing the final collective conclusions that will shape the Venezuela to come in the next 30 years.
Thank you, Belén, for all the information in this second day of the Congress. And now with this report, we have a short break coming up. But first, remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. As Brazil remembered the National Day of Fighting Illiteracy this week, the Landless Rural Workers Movement (MST) announced new measures to combat this societal ill, which affects an estimated 11 million people. Our correspondent Brian Meir has more.
Every year since 1966, on November 14th, Brazilians have commemorated the National Day of Fighting Illiteracy, a date which corresponds with the founding of Brazil's National Ministry of Education in 1930. This year, the Landless Rural Workers Movement, or MST, is remembering the over 200,000 adults who have learned to read and write through its teaching methodology, Yes I Can.
My mom and dad and my family were poor, so when I asked about school, my dad would put a stop to it and told us we had to work on the fields. I had a lot of problems in the big city before I learned how to read. I would go to the big city to work and I couldn't figure out how to take the bus. I'd choose a bus because of its color, and it wouldn't work because the buses in the big cities are almost all the same color.
After Cuba achieved nearly 100% literacy in its rural areas, the Fidel Castro administration worked to share its adult literacy teaching methodology with peasant organizations around the global south. When the MST decided to tackle the problem in its settlements, it turned to Cuba for help. Later, the MST provided technical assistance to the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela when Hugo Chavez initiated an adult literacy campaign.
I feel good now, because it's really bad when you don't know how to read. You arrive somewhere and can't figure out how to use public transportation, and it's almost impossible to go to the bank.
The MST's methodology is based on the principle of recognizing and respecting the vast technical knowledge and life experiences that illiterate family farmers have accumulated, while using teaching techniques such as associating letters with numbers that were proven successful in Cuba.
Teaching adults and youth how to read and write enables these subjects to interpret the world from the written word. Reading enables them to learn about the world. Above and beyond that, it provides dignity to these people, the people from the countryside, who were denied their rights to access school during their childhood.
This month, the MST announced a new round of over 1,500 adult literacy courses in its agrarian reform settlements across Brazil. Brian Meir, TeleSUR, Pernambuco.
The President of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, assured that the country will seek peace and the reduction of poverty during her participation in the G20 summit to take place in Brazil.
More than for Mexico, our participation has to do with building peace in the world, with the environment, and with the reduction of poverty. A lot of resources are allocated in the world for weapons. In fact, in 2023, depending on the number, because we talk about billions, our billions are trillions in the United States, but $2.7 billion were allocated in the world for weapons in 2023. In recent years, the budget to buy arms has grown almost 3 times more than the growth of the world economy, more than 6%. So the proposal is to allocate part of that resource to global programs.
The Mexican head of state also said she hopes to keep the communication with the U.S. President-elect about several issues.
We are watching the times, and we will inform you. Mexico designed a policy to reduce migration, particularly on the northern border, which has many sides, that we are strengthening. The most important one is the attention to the root causes. So there is a migration policy, a humanist migration policy. So all these numbers, and what we have been doing in terms of security, all these and other issues, are being considered within this comprehensive strategy for the country, which is the National Development Plan, which is included there. And now with President Trump, there will be time to talk and coordinate our efforts, as we have always said, to coordinate, not to subordinate ourselves.
In Spain, a fire broke out at a care home in the town of Villafranca de Ebro in the northeastern region of Aragon, killing at least 10 people. Local authorities reported the fire that erupted early on Friday at the Jardines de Villafranca home took 2 hours to be extinguished by firefighters from nearby Zaragoza. As the cause of the incident remains unknown, the town's mayor, Volca Ramirez, informed that smoke inhalation was likely responsible for the deaths. In addition to the deceased, 2 people were seriously injured and several others were treated for smoke inhalation, with the remaining injured residents being transferred to other facilities. In the aftermath of the incident, Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez took to social media to express his shock at the tragedy and offer his condolences. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at TeleSUR English, there you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. The World Health Organization has warned of a threat of a resurgence of measles, as more than 10 million cases were reported last year. According to the organization, the jump in cases of the contagious disease reflects a drop in vaccine coverage. Since last year, only 83% of children worldwide received their first dose of the measles vaccine through routine health services. As a result, the number of infections are rising around the globe, endangering lives. In 2023, the disease claimed more than 107,000 lives, most of them children. In addition, 57 countries saw significant measles outbreaks last year, and almost half were reported in Africa. Measles is one of the world's most infectious diseases, and at least 95% vaccine coverage is required to avert outbreaks. The Russian Foreign Ministry informed on Friday that during the BRICS 2024 summit held last October, the economic bloc added 3 new countries to its list of partners. Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand have become the first states to be admitted as partners. During the summit, the candidates showed their interest in joining the organization that seeks to establish a fair and multipolar international order. It is worth noting that the new partners signed a series of agreements in the areas of trade, investment, artificial intelligence, energy and climate, and logistics as well. The U.S. National Hurricane Center said Friday afternoon that Tropical Storm Sara is meandering near the northern coast of Honduras and that heavy rainfall from the storm is likely to cause life-threatening flash flooding and mudslides into early next week for portions of Central America. As of Friday afternoon, the center of Sara was located about 30 miles southwest of Isla Guanaja, Honduras, with maximum sustained winds near 50 meters per hour with higher gusts. The storm is moving west, and a continued westward motion at a slower forward speed is expected over the next day or so. The center of Sara is forecast to move close to the northern coast of Honduras through early Saturday, then approach the coast of Belize early Sunday. A COP29 report says Asia and the United States release most heat-trapping gas that feeds climate change. The information was revealed on Friday by the Climate Trace's annual data at the COP29 summit in Baku, Azerbaijan. The report shows that Shanghai's 256 million metric tons of greenhouse gases led all cities and exceeded those from Colombia and Norway. On the other hand, New York City's 160 million metric tons and Houston's 150 million metric tons tons are in the top 50 of countrywide emissions, with Seoul in South Korea ranks 5th among the cities to be the most polluting. With these alarming figures, nations at the United Nations climate talks in Baku are trying to set new targets to cut such emissions and figure out how much rich nations will pay to help the world with that task. Mali's former Environment Minister Aida Embo has launched an initiative to protect forests involving multiple volunteers engaged in reforestation efforts. Embo's non-profit project Energia is financially supported by the Great Green Wall, an initiative by African countries launched in 2007, aimed at planting trees in a nearly 5,000-mile line across the continent. Embo's initiative is aimed at organizing a community tree planting in the Sambalara forest, which despite being protected for decades, is now in danger of being wiped out, mainly due to the consumption of wood for household purposes. With this project, the former official seeks not only to create new forests, but also to give priority to natural regeneration. Thailand holds these days the Yemen Lantern Festival, a celebration of lights where people release thousands of paper lanterns into the sky, symbolizing letting go of misfortunes and making wishes for the future. The event salutes the full moon in the 12th month of the Thai lunar calendar, which this year is from November 14th to 17th, with the main parade on November 16th. Also known as the Sky Lantern Festival, it has its origins in the ancient Lana Kingdom and represents the transition from the dark and rainy monsoon season to the sunnier days of the cool season. The Yemen Lantern Festival is closely associated with the Loy Krathong Festival, which is being held on the same day and carries similar symbols. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.
There are events that shock the world. Every piece